been home to the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix for the past 2 years. But today, Sydney's magnificent Eastern Creek Raceway joins the touring car title trail for the first time. The 3.9 kilometre layout has been a happy haven so far for Larry Perkins, who won the inaugural Nissan 500 here. Peter Jackson teamster Glenn Seaton, winner of the Winfield Triple Challenge back in January. Today, all the guns have gathered for round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Mark Skaife continues to lead the series from teammate Jimmy Richards. Seaton is third, with Tony Longhurst and John Bowe filling out the 5. 7 Sport welcomes you to Eastern Creek for another afternoon of championship bike and car action, proudly presented by Shell. Go well, go Shell, and by Synovus Vitamins. Hello Australia, I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Eastern Creek Raceway in Sydney and round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. I can promise you one thing at the top of the show, one heck of a race here today. And Allan Moffat, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes, I will, Mike. 5/10 of a second, half a second over 6 cars, only a second and a half over the first 14 cars. Everybody's in with a real hunt today.
Well, of course, it changed a little earlier this morning with the Peter Jackson dash. When we left here yesterday, John Bowe had pole position. But, of course, his teammate, Dick Johnson, drew the outside of the front row. And as you can see, Mark Skaife got away to a rather slow start. That put John Bowe and Dick Johnson up chasing 1-2, and that's exactly where they finished. Johnson looking quite keen there as he got away from John Bowe. And Larry Perkins, of course, was to finish in 3rd place.
I think Larry's in with a good chance today, and if his tyres wear well for him, he's going to do a good job.
Well, I can promise you one thing, Dick Johnson was a happy man when Andy Raymond caught up with him.
And what a start to the day for the Shell Sierras. Dick Johnson, congratulations.
Thanks, Andy. It was quite pleasing, actually, to have a win here.
You and John off the front row, you couldn't ask for a better start.
No, well, you know, after Lakeside, when we had provisional pole and then drew 6, I thought, well, it was certainly our turn this weekend.
Well, a very happy Dick Johnson. Not only the tourers on today's program, but you'll see highlights of the Shell Oil Superbike Series with young Matthew Mladen on pole position and a positively rude margin over the field. He leads the series 160 to Scotty Doohan. Next, of course, is James Knight, followed by Troy CORSER and Malcolm Campbell. Right now, we have the tourers coming out on the track, and to take us through the grid, it's good afternoon to Neil Crompton.
Good afternoon, Mike, and let's take a look at the grid for this round 6 of the championship, and it's Dick Johnson on pole with a 35.47 from his teammate John Bowe. On the second row of the grid, Larry Perkins in the State White Roads Commodore from Mark Skaife, the series leader. From position 5, it's 25, Tony Longhurst in the BMW, a real one to watch for the race, I should say. Glenn Seaton, position 6, car number 30. Behind him, it's Wayne Park, his teammate in the second Peter Jackson Sierra, then Peter Brock in the Commodore. From 9, it's Mark Gibbs in the Nissan GTR, and 10, it's Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra 36.19. Very close in qualifying, and there's Thomas Mazira at the back of the field. And yesterday, Thomas in the Holden Racing Team Commodore had a very difficult qualifying on his flying lap in the fast left-hander at the end of the long straight. He got out in the grass here, got the car all sideways, slammed the wall and wrote that car off. Terry Finnegan very lucky to miss Thomas Mazira. You can see the damage done to the HRT Commodore. So last night the crew went to enormous lengths to change engines and gearboxes and get this spare car ready. He'll run from the back of the grid with a 10-second penalty with new tyres.
Thank you, Neil. A magnificent crowd filing into Eastern Creek Raceway today. Truly a magnificent racing complex. We'll talk about that later during the course of the telecast, but a big day for the Shell team. Dickie Johnson, John Bowe, 5 seconds to go. Watch Mark Skaife and Larry Perkins. Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Eastern Creek. They're racing, and look at Skaife, straight between the pair of them. 4-wheel drive, no advantage? Don't you believe it? Heading down to the first turn, it'll be Mark Skaife that leads them in there. Dick Johnson in second spot. They're followed by John Bowe. There's the Lansvale Smash Repairs car going through. Tony Longhurst away to a good start, and so too Allan Jones. Turn number 2. And the Nissan will lead. The 2 Shell Sierras tucked in behind them, and then Larry Perkins and the Statewide Roads Commodore coming up very smartly behind John Bowe.
Mark Skaife fluffed the start in the Jackson Dash for cash this morning, but he wasn't going to make the same mistake twice off the line like a jackrabbit. Trouble there with Terry Finnegan's car. He was very lucky not to get clobbered yesterday by Thomas Mazira. A good piece of driving by himself, slamming the brakes on and just missing Mazira. It could have been a very nasty T-bone. But back to the race, Neil. Here we have the Nissan in front, chased by the two Shell Sierras.
Certainly a great start from Mark Skaife, and he's wanting, of course, to protect his championship lead, and he's trying to pull off a double in 1992 and win the Australian Driving Championship as well as the Touring Car Championship. But there's a heck of an argument for the minor placings. You'll see Thomas Mazira in the background here as well. I mentioned just a few moments ago that he had a 10-second penalty. Obviously he had penalty enough after the accident starting at the back of the grid in the spare car, but when you damage your marked set of practice tyres and have to go for a different set, then there's a penalty incurred. You saw that at Lakeside. Different guys opted to put new tyres on for the second heat. That's why Thomas had to start so far back.
Well, he's gained a couple of spots. Here's John Bowe pulling out of the slipstream. Just has a look at Dick Johnson. That is the fastest corner on the circuit. As Bowe, down on the inside of his team leader, wraps up second spot, gets on the toe now of the Winfield Nissan as they head down to turn number 2. And JB in no mood to settle for second best today. He's on the tail of the Nissan. Dick sits in right behind him. Larry Perkins, a very comfortable fourth at this stage. Looks like the Finnegan car, the number 27 car, is in the pits, out of commission.
Bowe's opening up a very healthy gap now over this group, but just going back to discussing Tony Longhurst, I think that you'll find as this race unfolds, and it's 16 laps in total, and then you get into the second heat, that the BMW will be very strong. Larry now up the inside of Dick Johnson. Dunlop Race Cam tells the story, and Larry has a spin.
Larry!
And a big one. Locked up the rear brakes.
And he's got Johnson, the side of Johnson's car on the way through.
Yes.
There's not too much room there. Fortunately, they've all got through on the inside. Minimal damage, I would think, to the Perkins car. There's Thomas Mazira. Let's have a look at this as Larry comes up on the statewide roads. Commodore slips it down on the inside, locks up the brakes. The tail comes out. There it is. Bang.
Well, that cost Dick a window as well. He's going to have a bit of shattered glass in the cockpit of his Shell Sierra. But certainly a lock-up on Larry's part, and Dick was the unfortunate victim. But I don't believe, we haven't got him on camera at the moment, but I don't think he got that badly damaged. He was at the right angle to keep going, whereas Larry landed up spinning.
Here's Tony Longhurst working on the tail now of Mark Skaife in the Winfield Nissan GTR. I was really surprised how quick this car was yesterday. To make the top 6, I believe, is quite an achievement. And thanks to Castrol, we take Castrol Race Cam. And this will be fascinating stuff as he closes up under brakes. You'll see the Nissan get away in the straight.
See, Eastern Creek, Castrol cam gets covered in mud. Eastern Creek, although it gives the outward appearance of being, you know, a very fast circuit, Mike and Allan, if you measure the amount of time the car's straight versus all these twists and turns over the back, it's still a circuit that demands a lot from tyres and handling, and so the BMW loves that sort of territory, and you watch as these cars get hot and dusty towards the end of this race. The bigger cars will suffer, their tyres will be knocked around, the BMW will be right there.
It's almost like Castrol sump cam, full of Castrol, and that's how low you are to the ground here. Fascinating stuff from our race cam engineers, coming up with a different angle for just about every touring car race. Not imported. Sevens technology exported, of course, as we pick up on Tony Longhurst sitting in the draft now of Mark Skaife down the very long straight here. We'll see Thomas Mazira move from the back of the field up to 14th, and Perkins from 3rd back to 15th. And here comes No Baloney. Tony up on the inside. Be deep under brakes here, and there goes Tony. Is the little opening.
Very nice driving there. He waited. He was nice and patient. He's been a little bit impatient on occasions when he's had John Bowe to contend with, but these fellows have got this car wound up. They've got a nice weight in the vehicle, and obviously have been working on their engines and their tires. The Yokohama tires, no doubt, are now tailor-made for this duration of these races, and he's certainly doing well there.
So that's Longhurst to 2nd, Skaife in 3rd. There's Bowe, the leader. That's the gap, 1st to 2nd. Now, John's got a good, healthy gap. If he can drive the car straight now and not lean on his tyres too much, he's possibly able to hold that lead, but you can be sure that Longhurst will give it 110% to reduce that gap, and he's already well clear now of Mark Skaife, so he's in no danger from behind at this stage. He might come under some pressure at the end of the main straight on this next lap, and Skaife will close up a little at the bottom of the straight, but you saw how nimble the VM was in the tight corners.
Left-hander, Tony Longhurst, the Benson and Hedges BMW M3 carrying our Castrol race cam. There's Mark Gibbs coming through, Peter Brock right behind him, and then Jim Richards sits on the tail of Brock in the 05 Mobile Commodore. Brock started out fairly quick yesterday, was I think second fastest after 2 unofficial sessions, but then as they turned up the pace a little later in the afternoon, he went back out of the top 6. A lot of brakes locking up yesterday. Not as much as Jimmy Richards, who was off the track on 2 occasions.
Well, that wasn't too good. You can't get a good lap time when you're out on the grass, Michael. But Brocky's working hard here to stay in front of Jim Richards at the moment.
Perkins, incidentally, is still circulating in his 14th.
Yeah, Johnson back behind Jim Richards. We might see some good stuff from Dick as this race unfolds. There he is. You just caught sight of him coming through the turn. Jimmy Richards carrying our Nissan race cam as he comes up on the inside of Peter Brock. Beautiful move that on the inside.
He made a good clean exit out of the corner, and Peter just got a little bit out of shape. There's a new tyre on the Commodore this weekend. They had the tyre also at Lakeside, and as Mike said, the car was very quick in the unofficial sessions yesterday, but Peter left his qualifying run a bit late. It was after the Thomas Mazera incident. There was a fair bit of garbage on the road, so he's disappointed in qualifying.
John Bow, the top turn, bringing him back onto the start-finishing straight. We'll check them out on Shell Race Score for you. JB from Tasmania leads heat number 1 today. Tony Longhurst in the BMW, a very strong second, followed by Mark Skaife in the Winfield Nissan. 4th is Mark Gibson, the GIO GTR, and rounding out the 5, Gentleman Jim in the 2nd of the Nissans. That car's got plenty of poke, let me tell you, as he dives down into the left-hander. Morris drops back a spot on the ladder, and I would think in about the middle of the field you'll find that Dick Johnson starting to close on that second group behind the race leader John Bowers. You ought to still bow over Tony Longhurst. They've opened up a huge gap over Mark Skaife, and probably 8 or 9 car lengths then back to Johnson, followed of course by Jimmy Richards.
Colin Bond with a loose rear bumper bar, the insert to the middle of the bumper bar, going straight. I don't think it's going to hurt anybody if that comes off. It's only plastic, but looks a bit unsteady. It looks like it's going to blow off here shortly. He's obviously had a little nudge for that to break loose on the left-hand rear guard.
We'll see what Bondy can do as he comes into the left-hander. Paul Morris changes direction and goes to the outside. He'll fix the problem for him.
Doesn't want to get slapped in the face by that piece of plastic, but it's not going to hurt anybody if it does come off.
This is the battle for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Take Dunlop race cam. Dick goes down the outside under brakes. Brock's got a nice line into the...
Yes, you'd be a bit careful you didn't cop a Larry back through the window there.
Brock covers his tracks, and while Dick gets pushed wide, Alan Jones takes advantage of that, and Dick goes back even another position.
There's Brocky, Alan Jones, Dick Johnson in there. I tell you, it's getting pretty tight back at the front of the field, where we've seen John Bow leading since the first lap of this race. But Tony Longhurst has been eroding that lead lap after lap, and he is right on his tail as we pick them up coming down to Family Hill. A brave move this on the outside. Sits in behind John Bow as the exit to that turn. Now coming up to a section of the racetrack that I would think that Longhurst will be really able to monster JB.
Be interesting to see how bold he is. He'd probably be a bit gun-shy after Winton. There's a Colin Bond as we speak.
As Colin's gone off there, but the car's okay. I think he's just had a spin off.
Still got his bumper bar hanging off the back. He's trying to get back onto the circuit.
Well, he's back on. Let's have a look at Colin Bond. I think he got a bit of help there from Paul Morris, perhaps. Just a touch, maybe.
Paul actually forgot to put his foot on the brake there. That was...
You weren't as gracious as I. Okay, John Bow has Tony Longhurst all over him as they come up to the next left-hander. We take our CASTROL race cam, riding almost at CASTROL sump level with Tony Longhurst. And this will be fascinating stuff over the tight part of the circuit. Let's see what Tony can do here.
Gee, the Shell boys have been doing a great job with these Sierras this year in its 6th racing season. Unbelievable racing life from one car. And Longhurst just about gets up under the differential of the Sierra, goes around the outside under brakes. We lose him with our CASTROL race cam. There he is, Bow. Now, Bow is renowned in Australian touring car racing as one of the toughest customers to pass. Anyone will tell you that.
Actually, Tony's got $5 grand to prove it. Oh,
here's a fire in Bondy's car.
They called out the Bush fire.
Gary Wilmington's Toyota Supra. He's had a big barbecue on 4 wheels there. They've got it out.
Well, he's on top of old Smokey. It looks at, yes, he's out of the car and okay. That's just before the grandstand here at Eastern Creek.
He's trying hard here to get by, extremely hard. Down through the gears, slams it down. Here he goes, after him again on this side.
Okay, Castrol race cam with Tony Longhurst chasing hard, and Dick Johnson in trouble, car number 17. What has happened there? A spin? Any other parties involved? It's hard to tell.
Gee, he's really been in the wars today. A lot of smoke there. You can see the left-hand door staved in from that incident with Perkins.
This time through, it's 1 lap to go. We might try and take a look at a replay and see what happened with Dick Johnson. There's the gap, first to second. Well, this is going to be an exciting last lap, about 1 minute and 40 seconds of racing to run, and Longhurst desperate to try and punch a hole through and get to the lead. Can he do it under brakes? The back of the BMW really snaky. He's giving the little car everything it can under brakes. Let's go back to that replay of the Johnson incident and see exactly what happened. It was over the left-hander past the dam, and it looked as though Dick may have been in strife on his own.
Yep,
rear brakes locked up, and he almost took Glenn Seaton with him, who had to go to the grass. Meanwhile, back at the head of the field, it's on for young and old, and these two have opened up a very healthy gap. Of course, Mark Skaife is still in 3rd place, and he's looking perfect for the championship, which is his ultimate goal. These two guys arguing over the heat. Bauer's taken 2 wins in the series this year, and look at Longhurst right on the bumper bar of the Shell Sierra. Can he get up the inside here? If he could just get to at least halfway along it, he'll be able to get under John and aggravate him, but no, he can't do it. The Sierra comes back once again. So now he tries the outside route when they go to this right-hand kink. Pretty impossible thing to do, Alan.
He wants to sling in tight, but you mentioned earlier he gets off the engine speed, and the Sierra is just a little bit too strong for him in a straight line.
When we drove the BMWs in '88, if you lost 500 revs from your optimum speed on any corner, it made the run down the next straight just a terrible time. Okay, last corner, coming onto the main straight, the crowd's up on its feet, and Longhurst doing everything he can, but he's going to be shy on horsepower. John Bowe, I think, is going to survive, or will he? It's going to be very, very tight, but no, the Shell Sierra, John Bowe at the helm, takes the win in Heat 1. Tony Longhurst backs away from it in the end and finishes in 2nd place, and those two with a very healthy margin over 3rd placed Mark Skaife, and there he is. He was about 6.5, 7 seconds behind in 3rd. Well, what a great race. Shell Race Score confirms John Bowe the winner from Tony Longhurst in the BMW. Mark Skaife was 3rd. Jimmy Richards, his teammate, a great run through the field to 4th. And Mark Gibbs was 5th in another of the Nissan GTRs. And we're back with more motor racing action in just a tick.
And Dick, of course, with John Bowe, the winner of the first heat. Let's check them out, how they'll start. Bowe will start out of pole position, with Tony Longhurst alongside in the Benson & Hedges BMW from position number 3, car 2, Mark Skaife, the Winfield Nissan GTR. Jimmy Richards in the 2nd of the Winfield entry starts out of 4. Mark Gibbs, the GIO GTR, out of 5. From position number 6 at 05, Peter Brock, the Mobil 1 Commodore. From 7:20, Allan Jones, the B&H BMW. From 8:30, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 9:23, Paul Morris, the B&H BMW, and rounding out the 10:35, Wayne Park is the Peter Jackson Sierra, the 35 car. We're about 7 seconds away from the start. Watch the Nissans off the line. 4-wheel drive advantage. Bowe, Longhurst, the front row. Racing, goodbye, go the Nissan straight between them. They'll be 1, 2, 3 very quickly as Mark Gibbs tries to get up, but Bowe covers his ground very well getting into the bottom corner. Johnson goes in there. Longhurst, of course, couldn't sustain anything off the line, so he's back in the pack a little bit. Down to the 2nd turn now. Mark Gibbs up on the inside. He should have picked up 3rd, but he gets very wobbly on the exit to that turn. They all get through there and now make their run to the top end of the circuit. John Bowe starting fairly well. Larry Perkins at the back of the field, plus 10 seconds because of a change of tyres, and Peter Brock down on the inside of the BMW. There's Dickie Johnson, gets a short back and sides. He's gone sideways off onto the grass.
Johnson and Mazier are touching there, and they came into contact in the dash at Lakeside, as I recall.
Well, that seemed to be totally uncalled for. I can't quite figure out what Thomas was doing there. Dick was certainly minding his own business. But when you got the G-forces going sideways, it doesn't take much. You can stick your hand out the window and push a car offline. So just the slightest tap, and Dick was in trouble.
There's
Frustrating guy.
Glenn Seaton up there on the inside, making his run on the BMWs. Peter Brock locked in between a BMW, a Bavarian sandwich at the moment. Now this is where the oil, and a lot of it is on the circuit, but they all hug the inside line for the exit to the turn. That is the racing line, and they're away from it now. Coming now from the completion of the first lap, it's getting pretty tight up front. Mark Skaife, the leader. John Bowe in hot pursuit. Mark Gibbs coming down the inside and passing Jimmy Richards was Glenn Seaton. There he is in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Then Tony Longhurst. So it is fairly tight at the front of the field, and I have the feeling at the moment that we've got the makings of a good race.
I think there's any doubt of that, Michael. We've got Skaife giving it plenty. A lot of dust still on the circuit from the other events. It's a funny place, Eastern Creek, in that respect. There's areas that aren't grassed yet. The circuit's still a little bit virgin in that respect, and the tidy-up department.
Skaife's car getting very sideways on a couple of occasions in those last few corners.
He's blasting it for some reason or other. They're quite determined to hold the lead. I think they saw what happened in the first heat where John got by him in the first few laps, and I think he's determined to say, cop this for a few more laps, Sierra. I'd like the lead and I'm going to keep it. Bear in mind the drivers know after the first heat, an inspection of the tires, whatever they felt shall we say, the damage they threw into the car, they can inspect those tires, and if there's a bit more meat on them than they thought, they get a bit braver in the second heat.
Johnson, after that spin, has gone to the back of the field, and Larry Perkins, who started from the back of the field, is now up to 14th. Once again, through the turn that brings them down the long straight downhill run here past the grandstand. Here comes JB. It's all stoked up on the inside. Gets a little closer, and here comes Glenn Seaton on the outside of Mark Gibbs. Passes him, and they are starting to gain on Jimmy Richards, who is one back behind this group: Tony Longhurst, Peter Brock, Allan Jones. The Nissan GTR, the Winfield entry of Mark Skaife, leads out of turn number 2. JB in hot pursuit. And Dick Johnson, by the look of it, into the pits. And I'd say Dick, after some tyre problems, might be in there for a little bit of attention, and the crew are very, very quickly on the scene.
Well, he mentioned on race cam earlier that he had a cut in one anyway, so the spin will have just confirmed the feeling in his mind that he should just get in and get some new tyres on. He's at the back of the field, so it doesn't matter now anyway.
The rules permit any tyres to go on now, so a brand new set. He's had a frustrating day. I think you probably see a lap record likely to be broken here by Dick when he comes out again.
That's first and second going through. Then there's Glenn Seaton, who runs in third. Tony Longhurst is your next driver going through down the side of Corporate Hill. Car number 25, the B&H BMW. The exit to that turn, Mark Gibbs getting the short back and sides from Peter Brock. He got one wheel out there on the grass, and Brocky made him sit out there for a while. He wasn't going to open the gate any further for him.
Well, you don't want to argue with a Commodore. It's a good, stable, heavy piece of machinery, and you want to take it on, you better be prepared to know where your who's paying your panel beater.
This looks good now as Mark Gibbs and the Bob Forbes GIO Nissan GTR. Tony Longhurst gets a little closer now. Watching from this point of the racetrack up to turn number 2. Bob sidelined the car when they put more weight into the Nissan because he wanted to put new wheels on it. Talking about wheels, Castrol race cam tells the story, doesn't it? We're down at sump level now, with the Castrol machine moving up behind Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Comes down the inside. Seaton takes the line for the turn. Tail just out a little bit, and no baloney from Tony.
Bad angle there. He's still got a bit to go, but he's monstering Glenn Seaton with everything he can. Same routine. We've seen it happen before with John Bowe, and now just all he needed. Halfway up alongside that door was good enough, and he can fling that BMW anywhere he wants. A little wave to Seaton there, nice courtesy, sportsman-like wave. I don't think Glenn actually be too impressed with that wave, but nevertheless, courtesy on the part of Tony Longhurst.
You'd sharpen your passing skills in the BMW, wouldn't you? Because you have to spend so much time and effort working on the bigger cars.
It's actually known as the Sterling Moss wave. It was not so much thank you as I'll see you later.
There's a bit of activity behind Peter Brock too. Mark Gibbs, who looked the goods there for a while, is in there. That they're bounding up behind him. And I think Larry Perkins, who was well back in the field, is starting to pick them up too.
Allan moves to the inside to cover his ground, but the Commodore's quicker, and Peter goes by at the end of the straight. But of course it's the same old story, and Jones will be really quick when they get under brakes and in the tight turns.
Getting close on the exit to turn number 2. As you can see, the rest of the field going through, but Bow is closing and gaining all the time. Larry Perkins up to 10th after starting dead last, and he is in a group of cars who pick up a spot here as well.
A lot of smoke coming out of the GTR on deceleration, Mike. That's just the turbochargers having a big huff and a puff. Nothing really wrong with the engine at all. Just a lot of back pressure going out the exhaust pipe. But it's an indication of how hard he's pushing it. And you see that little puff of smoke at the last minute, and you know his foot's on the brakes, not on the gas, for that to happen.
JB really does drive that Sierra straight, doesn't he? There's not too much time spent with the tail wagging. He closes it up now.
He's done a lot of work. He's done a lot of work with Dunlop on those tires, and I think it's not only a credit to them, but the style of the effort that the Johnson team put into their work. These cars aren't up here by accident.
Just looking at the body language from Mark and his car, well, there's a great demonstration. He's really 10-tensing it at the moment as JB goes down the inside, and Bow goes to the lead now. The crowd stands. Pretty exciting motor race. And Bow to the lead in 18. Skaife back to second. Two things spring to mind. Either Skaife, and the auto colour entry has gone off. The top of the straight.
Yes, the Dulux has had a dunk up there. Oh. Now, there was oil up there, so he's brought a bit of dust back on. That's settled on top of the oil.
He was going very well. He was in a battle with Thomas Mazira and Paul Morris, and they were all very close. Larry Perkins, incidentally, has passed both Mazira and Morris, so he's charging.
He's up to 9th now. Fastest corner on the racetrack through here. But from here, Tony keeps on as Mark tries to get on the binders a bit earlier, and he'll come up the inside, will he? No, he can't. Let's go back to our Castrol race cam. He goes in wide once again. He'll be all over him here. And that's a nice spot. That's where they'll put the tow hitch in the box trailer for Bathurst with the terracotta tiles in it.
He was off the engine there. You saw in self-defense he had to. He tried to lunge him on the left. He's doing everything he can. He knows if he can get him on brakes, but Mark Skaife's doing a very good job here too. We mustn't discount the fact that he's holding a second spot and doing it extremely well.
If you're racing Mark Skaife in a 100cc sprint car, that's what you'd see.
Yes. Here they come once again, out of the top bend. Left-hander comes up now.
So Longhurst has just about exhausted all his options. Skaife.
He really needs a little inside, but there's no way Mark's going to leave a gap there for him.
No, it's going to be an error on Skaife's behalf, I think. Seems matching him, certainly covering his ground around the slower parts of the track with the BMW so strong. Just has that edge on the straight to keep him there.
John Bow's done a fabulous job. Let's take nothing away from John here today, and so too Mark. When you try to save those tyres, and all of a sudden the Queenslander arrives with the Benson and Hedges machine behind you, you better know about it. Bowie takes the last lap forward, followed by Skaife, then Tony Longhurst, who tries to keep the foot in it just a bit longer, down through here. This will be great stuff. He is all over him again. They've got some lap cars coming up. Longhurst looked to the inside. Couldn't do anything about it. Once again, feints this outside and pulls back behind him. Whoa! It's all nice there, folks, isn't it? When you're watching a motor racing and someone shows you one of these views in about 3 years' time, I hope you will remember who came up with all the innovations. It was Seven's race cam team.
Oh, absolutely fantastic, Mike. That's tremendous.
Now this is going to get great from here on in as they come up on the lap cars. Skaife through. Now it's Tony down the outside. Unfortunately, he hasn't got enough to pocket him behind one of these cars. But here he comes anyway. He's going to give it a shot here. The left-hand is coming up shortly over the crest.
We saw him use lap traffic to his advantage at Lakeside. Let's see if he can do it again here at Eastern Creek. Final lap. Under brakes for the hairpin.
Down at turn number 9. John Bower gets out of there. He's home on his way. The victory here today. Bob Jones getting a lap put on him by Mark Skaife late in the race. Another one of the consistent Commodore privateers. They come into the final turn. There's JB.
Sandown Park all over again.
Yes, from Tasmania. What a great driver. Number 2 to the Dick Johnson team. And here he comes. The Ford wins today at Eastern Creek Raceway. Second goes to Skaife in the Nissan, and the giant-killing performance yet again going to Tony Longhurst, who picks up a third. Well done, JB. Fabulous race, as we thought the day would provide. A big day for Dick Johnson's team, not necessarily for Dick personally, but certainly for this man who is one of the most talented tourers in Australia. Let's check him out for you. John Bower, the winner of round number 6. Mark Skaife in the Winfield Nissan places second. Clear of Tony Longhurst. Fourth was Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson's here, and rounding out the 5, well done, AJ in the B&H BMW.
Eastern Creek, the touring cars putting on a fine show for us. Nissan, BMW, Ford Sierra. The man who finished third today, Tony Longhurst, congratulations. That was one heck of a drive. It was great entertainment.
No, she's hard work, I tell you. I was right on the limit the whole time, and I must admit this Nissan's a remarkable car. You think you've got it and just inches away.
We mentioned quite a number of times in the commentary, it must be so frustrating to be constantly balked by the big cars, because you're fast where they're slow, and it's the opposite in other occasions.
I've never experienced such a thrill as going through that corner at the end of the main straight. The speed difference, we must have 20 or 30 Ks in the corner, but it really is frustrating. You just feel like going bang and giving the guys a clout, but I've learned about that.
Well, that's good. Well done, Tony. Third today. Good luck next week. Second place today, Mark Skaife. Congratulations. Another fine drive. I guess a win was the perfect world, but you keep your points championship thing alive.
Yeah, no, that was a good result for us today, obviously, to keep Tony away because he's starting to catch us, and to keep Bowie behind was a drama, I can tell you.
I'll bet it was. And the winner today, John Bower, congratulations. That was a fabulous performance from your Shell team, and of course a great drive from you. You must be pleased.
I am, Neil. It's great for the team. They've worked incredibly hard this year, and Dunlop have done an enormous amount of work on the tyres, and obviously it showed today.
Happy scenes in Victory Lane. Mark Skaife, the series leader on 160 over Richards 147. Seaton third, Longhurst fourth, and John Bower in fifth spot. And a very interesting series, Allan.
Great competition from 3 different makes, Mike.
Well, make sure you join us for the next round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, a non-telecast next weekend at Mallala in South Australia, and we'll join you at Wanneroo Park in Western Australia. Until then, good afternoon to you all.